Hi, I'm Rachel Abbasi. Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. As always, thanks for spending time with me. Good morning and happy voting day in Virginia. If you happen to be in Virginia, that's my big to-do today is to go put in my vote. This morning I slept in a little bit. Autumn let me sleep, thank goodness, and she is once again on the bed sleeping while I'm awake. But I did go to my morning meeting, and the topic was cultivating faith. And I had already been prepared to talk in one of my episodes, whichever one I chose to talk about how self-pity can eat away at faith. So I thought, well, today's the day because we were talking about cultivating faith. And I shared a little bit about my journey with faith. And I like to share about it because I think we all have our own unique journey with faith. I shouldn't say unique experiences, I guess. But I feel like sometimes when I share about it, other people say, and this is what happened this morning, I can totally relate to your journey. And so I like to share a little bit about it because that makes me feel that it might be resonating with somebody else. Because I did shy away from it for a long time because of my experiences early on in my life. So it's good for me to talk about it so I can see how far I've come, but also be reminded that there are some mindsets that I can have in recovery that can really eat away at faith, that can point me in another direction. So, self-pity, this episode is really about how self-pity is the opposite force of faith. So self-pity is inward. It's very narrow-minded, and it's just centered on like, why me? Why is this happening to me? I can't do this. I can't do that. Poor me. While faith, if I can recognize that I'm doing that to myself, and it is an action I'm doing to myself. If I have self-pity, I am actively wearing away at my faith, at my recovery. I'm working in the opposite direction. For me, I feel like self-pity does not just stop my progress. I feel like it pushes me backwards. So faith is like this outward, expanded, it's centered on trust outside of self. And I can't do both. I can't fully focus on self pity at the same time that I am trusting beyond my fingertips. So there's a perspective change between self-pity and faith. Self-pity magnifies my pain, my emotional pain. It magnifies or draws from that gap, that hole in the donut kind of thing that we learn about in sobriety. And it magnifies like the unfairness of life. Why me? Why did I have the stroke? Why do I have a vestibular disorder? Why can't I watch TV? That kind of thing. And self-pity makes the moment that I'm in, that I feel emotional pain, it makes it feel permanent. And it is rather permanent as long as I have the self-pity, then that pain is permanently attached to self-pity, I should say. So if I'm feeling the self-pity, then I'm feeling the pain and the unfairness. While faith allows me to see possibility beyond the current moment and trust that there's more to life than what I can see. And it's really all about self awareness for me. Um, being aware of some of these things that I was introduced to in my sobriety program. Another thing is control. Self pity fixates me on the things that I can, the things I can't control, people, places, and things. Like it reinforces helplessness because I'm continuing to try to squeeze, like I say a lot of the times, I'm squeezing um, my fists, but I'm holding on to nothing. I'm just squeezing and I'm not holding on to anything. I'm not changing anything. Self-pity is like keeping my fists clenched and not changing anything because I don't have that control. But faith accepts that lack of control. It allows me to open my fists and welcome something outside of me. It shifts that uh, feeling of that illusion of control towards trust and surrendering. Instead of squeezing, I'm opening my hands and I'm surrendering. I can't do this alone. I can't see what's beyond right in front of me, but I have faith and trust that there is more to life, to my life, than what is right in front of me. I think I shared this already, but I'm not sure. I was recently talking to my husband about like just our living situation in a positive way. Just like that we had moved to this new neighborhood and it has given me so much more opportunity to be more independent in a way that there's more things that I can walk to. And also there's more things that I can be involved in, even though he has to drive me to them, but also that our his future for retirement looks better. And and it's all really because of what happened to me medically. We wouldn't be here where we are right now if I hadn't have had my stroke. And that just means like we would have still been in Northern Virginia. We would have still had a house that was twice as expensive. We still would have been focused on like career focused instead of retirement focused. And looking at where I want to be in my career as opposed to where do I want to be in my life. I think that's the best way to say it. And and it made me realize, how I've always been saying, I mean, for years in the podcast, I've been saying, I don't know that I'll ever be grateful for my stroke. Well, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm grateful for my stroke, but I am starting to see that there is more that is unfolding in my life in a positive way, and it wouldn't be happening if I didn't have my stroke. I know that's bizarre. It's very much like this. I'm being pushed and pulled in different directions, and I don't have to make a decision whether I'm grateful I had my stroke or not. I don't think I'll ever say that, but I think what I'm trying to allude to here is that what I couldn't see when I had my stroke was that my life was not over. That that there there's another path. There's another way other than the way that I planned my life to be. And in moments of struggle, when the pain is too much or the dizziness and just the fatigue and everything is too much, it's hard to see beyond that. It's just like, I just need to rest. I'm so frustrated. I'm tired of being sick. I think that was a topic that I put in my notes yesterday that I should have a episode on. That is just, I'm just tired. I'm just tired of being sick. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be able to have a day that I don't feel sick. I want to have a day that I can go running. I want to have a day that I can just do whatever I want to do and I don't feel sick. Um, I think that's human. I think that's natural. Of course, I want that. But those are days that I'm lingering on the edge of self-pity. And self-pity leads to isolation and withdrawal. And it's pulling me towards this inward focus. And what I need to do in those times is notice that, recognize that, okay, I'm getting pulled inward. Now let's shift and work on building a connection with somebody else, as build something greater than myself. Go outside. This is great. The other day, I think 2 days ago, I walked down to the water with Autumn and I just sat there. I just sat down on this little wooden, I don't know, shelf plank thing, and we just sat there. She sat down and we just looked out at the water. And those moments of just sitting there, and it encourages me to look outward, to actively, physically look outward instead of looking inward and noticing the frustration. Instead, if I put myself physically in a place of beauty in the world, I can't help but be in awe and be grateful for what's around me and be grateful for what I have. Like every night before I go to bed, one of my gratefuls in my prayers is that I'm grateful for my body. And I've mentioned that before. And when I do that, I think of one thing that I did that day that I wouldn't, it's possible I wouldn't have been able to do if my stroke had taken different capabilities from me. And one would be walking down to the water with Autumn and sitting and looking out at the water. Um, so that really helps me to shift my mindset, to shift from a mindset of isolation to connection. And if I don't do that and I just stay in the self-pity, I'm really rehearsing the problem over and over again. I'm repeating the story in my head of what's wrong, and my mind gets stuck in the problem, in the self-pity. But if I can physically move my body to a place where I can be more focused outward, which anytime I'm focused outward, to me, that really is faith. That's it's connection, it's faith, and and it allows me to let go of that story that's repeating itself in my head and allows me to start thinking differently and get out of that mindset of I can't do this. I can't, I can't do this. I can't do that. Um, that's so funny. My computer just locked up, so hopefully I'm still recording. But so getting out of that mindset where I'm I'm not focused on what I can't do, but instead being able to look at I still have choices. I still have choices in how I'm going to respond to things that may be permanent in my life. But these feelings, this emotional pain, this frustration, it doesn't have to be permanent. Um, I can get myself out of it. And I know that from experience. I know that through my sobriety program that it's possible to practice these principles in all of my affairs, and I can get myself out of those feelings of restlessness, irritability, and discontent. That's what we call it in sobriety, but that's what it is in stroke recovery too. When I'm feeling that self-pity, I'm feeling restless, irritable, and discontent. And so changing my environment a lot of times will change my thinking, and that will give me new perspective. It'll calm me down and it'll give me that soundness of mind, the sanity. I'm so constantly bothered by the fact that sanity is defined as soundness of mind because that's not how I've used the word my whole life. Anyway, the self-pity, it takes away gratitude. It takes away trust that there's something beyond the moment that I'm in right now, that there is something more in my life that is waiting for me, but I have to show up for it. And faith is the thing that has given me hope. It is the thing that has given me hope. And I've talked about in the past, in the first year that I was in stroke recovery, that I was feeling so hopeless that I went on Amazon and bought myself a package of stickers. Sorry, Autumn. I mean, Boris. I clapped my hands and he was like, "What? What?" He's sitting on my lap. Now he wants to get down. You want to get down, Bobsies? If you're looking at the camera, he's like, "Leave me alone, lady. I'm trying to sleep." He was on my lap and I clapped my hands right above his head and he was like, "What? What? What happened? What happened?" Um, so I went on Amazon and I got a package of stickers, and every day that I felt hope, I would put a sticker on my mirror. And that's how hope was practiced for me. The self-pity that I was practicing was keeping me stuck in this place of that I felt like my life was over. I truly felt like my life was over. And I couldn't see. I told my psychiatrist, like, I can't envision a future. Like, that's how bad it was. But as there was this one, you know, dangling thing that I latched onto, and that helped my faith to start growing. And I think I latched onto it because out of desperation. So, um, when you feel that hopeless, when you feel like that's that's you've reached a dead end. Um, I talked about that the other day. It's not the end. It's a repositioning of life. and there is a new path that can be carved out. It's either already there in front of you and you can pause long enough to see it, um, or by practicing a little bit of gratitude, showing up anyway, with even with the pain, focusing on the next right thing, the next right action, that place where you feel like it's the end will shift. It just will. And maybe it's not one big shift. Likely it's not one big shift. It's kind of like I'm showing up anyway. I'm doing the next right thing. I'm putting my shoes on right now because there's a AA meeting at 10 a.m. or something like that. Like that's what sometimes for me the next right thing means is I'm just literally taking the next tiny little action. And a bunch of those little actions, putting on my shoes, and then picking up my keys, and then walking out the front door. Like that's what needs to, that's the sequence of events, the small shifts that have to happen in order for that big change or that big thing to happen, if that makes sense, in your life. So the self-pity, if I stay in it, I'm not going to put my shoes on. I'm not going to stand up and go get my keys. I'm not going to walk out the door. Self-pity isolates and contracts my world. But faith, doing the next right thing, believing that there's something beyond this emotional and spiritual pain, the hole in the donut, believing that there's something beyond that connects us and expands our world, really. And whichever one you practice more is going to be the one that is your habit. So, and it takes time. I mean, it takes time. It takes weeks, it takes months, it takes years to develop that way of living. And I'm eternally grateful to my sobriety program for introducing me to these concepts because without it, I don't know how I would have found hope after my stroke. I don't know. I mean, right now I've been seeing a psychiatrist for over a year and I have to check in with her every week. I've thought about spanning them out like every other week, but I really just need to talk to her every week because I feel like I'm constantly on on the edge, on the ledge of hope. And if I don't keep doing all of these things that I do on a daily basis, I'm going to fall off. And maybe one day the faith that I'm cultivating will put up a guardrail so I don't ever feel like I'm going to fall off of my path. But right now, I'm not there yet. And I think that that takes a lot of vulnerability and honesty in order to say that. But I'm more comfortable being honest and vulnerable than keeping that inside and not talking about it. So I encourage you that if you feel any of these things to reach out and talk to one of your loved ones, or you can reach out to me. That's fine too. And we can talk through it. So that's all I've got for you today. Thanks so much for showing up for me and for yourself. And I will talk to you next time.